The mahogany conference room of Preston Academy felt smaller than I remembered. Maybe it was the weight of disappointed stares from my family, or maybe it was just that I'd grown since my last visit to the prestigious private school where generations of Prestons had studied. "This is ridiculous, Emma," my mother said, tapping her manicured nails against the polished table. "Yale costs over $80,000 a year now. We've been clear that the family trust only covers Preston Academy and Stanford." She glanced meaningfully at the portraits lining the walls. 3 generations of Prestons who'd followed that exact path. I shifted in my chair, my acceptance letter crumpling slightly in my hands. The Yale logo at the top seemed to mock me, a reminder that I'd dared to step off the carefully planned Preston path. "I can get loans," I started, but Dad cut me off with a sharp laugh. "Loans? For what?" "To study computer science." He practically spat the words. "The Preston Foundation manages over $20 billion in real estate. You're meant to take over the foundation, not waste time with coding." My brother Thomas smirked from his corner of the table. He'd followed the plan perfectly. Preston Academy valedictorian, Stanford Business School, now managing director at the foundation. "Face it, sis. You can't afford Yale. Just accept Stanford like the rest of us." They didn't know about my cryptocurrency investments, or the educational technology platform I'd built 3 years ago. They still thought I spent my nights studying calculus when I was actually running a company from my dorm room. "Actually," I said, pulling out my laptop, "I wanted to show you something interesting about Preston Academy's financials." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "We're not interested in whatever computer project you're working on. This meeting is about getting you back on track." "Oh, but you'll want to see this," I replied, typing in my password. "Especially the part about the school's new ownership structure." "Ownership structure?" Dad frowned. "Preston Academy has been independently owned for 150 years. The Board of Trustees voted this morning," I finished for him, "to accept a private acquisition offer." I turned my laptop around, showing them the screen. "From my company." The room went deadly quiet. Thomas's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. "That's impossible," Mom whispered. "The school is worth $2.3 billion according to this morning's valuation," I said. "Though I paid a bit more to ensure a smooth transition." Dad's coffee cup hit the table hard, dark liquid splashing onto my Yale acceptance letter. But I didn't care anymore. That acceptance letter was already outdated. "I should probably mention," I continued, pulling up another document, "that the acquisition includes the entire Preston educational network. All 12 campuses." Thomas jumped to his feet. "You can't. There's no way you could afford." I pressed a button on my phone. Throughout the campus, bells chimed as the PA system crackled to life. "Attention Preston Academy students and faculty," my recorded voice echoed through the halls. "This is your new owner speaking." The next few minutes were chaos. Dad lunged for his phone, frantically dialing the board chairman while Mom sat frozen, her perfect posture finally cracking. Thomas was still standing, his face cycling through shades of red I didn't know existed. My announcement continued to echo through the campus. As of 9 a.m. this morning, Preston Academy and its affiliated campuses have been acquired by EDU Tech Innovations. Rest assured, our commitment to academic excellence remains unchanged. However, we will be implementing several exciting technological and financial improvements. "What improvements?" Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I opened another document on my laptop. "Full scholarships for 50% of students for starters. Merit-based, not legacy-based." I looked pointedly at Thomas, who'd barely scraped through with C's. "A complete overhaul of the computer science department. And most importantly, a new financial aid system that makes Preston accessible to students who actually deserve to be here." "You're destroying everything our family built." Thomas slammed his fist on the table. "These legacy admissions, these connections, they're what make Preston special." "No," I corrected him, "what makes Preston special is its potential to be more than just a playground for rich kids. Did you know our math team hasn't won a state championship in 15 years? But the public school across town with 1/10 of our budget has won 3. Dad finally lowered his phone, his face ashen. "Gerald just confirmed it. The board vote was unanimous." He looked at me like he'd never seen me before. "How? Where did you get that kind of money?" I pulled up my company's financial records. Remember that silly little education app I built sophomore year? The one you refused to invest in. I turned the screen toward them. It's now worth $18 billion. Turns out there's a huge market for AI-driven personalized learning. Mom's hand flew to her pearl necklace, her nervous tell since I was a child. But your trust fund barely covers a year at Yale. I never touched the trust fund, I said. I used the money I made coding websites in 9th grade to buy my first Bitcoin. Then I built the app, scaled it across Asia and took it public last year. I paused, enjoying the stunned silence. I'm actually richer than our entire family foundation now. Thomas collapsed back into his chair. This is a joke. It has to be. The PA system crackled again, this time with a live announcement. All faculty please report to the main auditorium for an emergency meeting regarding the new ownership transition. Through the conference room's windows, we could see teachers hurrying across the quad, phones in hand, probably reading the press releases that were now hitting every major news outlet. The board chairman, Dad started, is keeping his position, I assured him. Along with most of the administrative staff. This isn't a hostile takeover, Dad. It's a rescue mission. I pulled up another document, Preston's true financial records, the ones the family never talked about. The school's been losing money for years. The endowment's down 40% since 2020. Without this acquisition, Preston would have had to start cutting programs next year. The color drained from Dad's face. As the foundation's chairman, he'd known this, but he'd hidden it from the rest of the family. So you see, I continued, closing my laptop, Yale isn't really an issue anymore. Since I now own a university system, I can pretty much study wherever I want. Mom's composure finally broke completely. But what about the Preston legacy? The family name? I stood up, smoothing my blazer. The Preston name will be associated with educational innovation instead of elitism. I'd think you'd be proud. I checked my phone. My executive team was waiting. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a faculty meeting to address. Oh, and Thomas. My brother looked up, still shell-shocked. You might want to update your resume. The new board of trustees will be reviewing all legacy positions next week. The door burst open and in strode my grandfather, Charles Preston III, his bow tie slightly askew for the first time in living memory. As the patriarch of the Preston family and chairman emeritus of the school board, he'd clearly rushed over from his morning golf game at the country club. What's this nonsense about a sale? He thundered, waving his phone. Margaret at the club just texted me that her broker is buying Preston Educational Network stock. We're not even publicly traded. We are now, Grandpa, I said calmly. The IPO was part of the acquisition deal. Though I maintain controlling interest, of course. He stared at me, then at my laptop, then at the growing crowd of faculty members visible through the windows. But you're just the girl who wasn't Preston material? I finished for him. The one you said was wasting her time with computers instead of learning proper estate management. I pulled up another document. Speaking of estate management, would you like to see the real numbers behind the Preston Foundation's real estate portfolio? Dad's head snapped up. Emma, that's enough. No, I don't think it is. I turned the laptop to face them again. Your commercial properties are hemorrhaging money. WeWork's collapse took down half your office rentals. The shopping malls are at 40% occupancy. The only thing keeping the foundation afloat was the tuition from Preston Academy's international students. Grandfather's face went from red to purple. Those records are private. Nothing is private when you're using the school's outdated servers to store your financial data, I said. You really should have listened when I warned you about cybersecurity last year. Thomas finally found his voice again. So what, you're going to blackmail us now? Force us to accept your hostile takeover? I laughed. Actually laughed, for the first time since entering the room. Blackmail? Well, I'm offering to save you. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. This is a proposal to merge the Preston Foundation's real estate holdings with EduTech's innovation centers. We convert your failing malls into technical training facilities, your empty office buildings into startup incubators. Dad reached for the folder with trembling hands. You want to turn our real estate empire into schools? Into the future, I corrected him. Every major city needs tech education facilities. Your properties are perfectly located. We'd be providing practical education while generating steady revenue through public-private partnerships. Mom was rapidly tapping on her phone. The stock, she whispered. It's up 120% since the announcement. People believe in education, I said simply. They believe in innovation. They just needed someone to show them a better way. Grandfather slumped into a chair, looking every bit his 82 years. I always wondered why you spent so much time in that computer lab. Thought you were playing games. I was building an empire, I said quietly. One that could save yours if you let me. Through the windows, we could see news vans starting to arrive at the school gates. My phone buzzed continuously with messages from reporters, investors, and educational consultants. The press conference starts in 20 minutes, I said, standing up. You have two choices. Join me on stage as we announce a new era for Preston education, or watch from the audience as I do it alone. Dad looked at the folder in his hands, then at grandfather, then at me. The Preston legacy will be stronger than ever, I finished. Just different. More inclusive. More innovative. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Mom. She looked up from her phone, still tracking the soaring stock price. About Yale. I'm actually going to defer for a year. Need to focus on transforming education first. But thanks for worrying about the tuition. As I walked out, I heard grandfather mutter, Charles, I believe your daughter just outmaneuvered 3 generations of Prestons. No, father, Dad replied, and I could hear the beginning of pride in his voice. She just saved them. The main auditorium was packed. Every seat filled with faculty members, administrators, and board trustees, all murmuring anxiously as they refreshed their phones for updates. The stage, normally decorated with Preston Academy's centuries-old banners, now featured a sleek digital display showing the EDU Tech Innovations logo alongside Preston's traditional crest. I stood backstage watching through the curtain as my family filed in through a side door. Dad had straightened his tie, Mom had reapplied her makeup, and even Thomas had managed to compose himself. Only grandfather still looked shell-shocked, his bow tie remaining crooked. 5 minutes, Miss Preston, my chief of staff Sarah whispered. She'd been with me since the early days of EDU Tech, back when we were working out of my dorm room. The major networks are all carrying this live. I nodded, checking my presentation one last time on my tablet. Is Professor Chin here? Front row as requested. I smiled, remembering the old computer science teacher who'd given me my first coding lessons in that basement lab. The only faculty member who'd supported my unconventional interests. He didn't know yet that he was about to become the dean of Preston's new Institute of Technology. Ma'am. A nervous-looking board member approached. The teachers' union representatives are asking about job security. Tell them to wait for the announcement, I said. But they might want to update their technical skills. The auditorium lights dimmed and the murmuring quieted. The digital display began showing Preston Academy's statistics. Test scores, college acceptance rates, endowment figures. Then, smoothly, it transitioned to EDU Tech's global reach. 50 million users, 120 countries, 15 educational patents. I stepped onto the stage and the room went silent. In my simple black blazer and pants, I looked nothing like the traditional Preston leadership. No tweed, no elbow patches, no bow ties. Good morning, I began, my voice carrying clearly through the state-of-the-art sound system that had just been installed overnight. I'm Emma Preston, CEO of EDU Tech Innovations, and as of today, the new owner of Preston Educational Network. I could see the shock on many faces, faculty members who remembered me as a quiet student more interested in computers than cotillions. I know many of you are worried. Change is frightening, especially in an institution as steeped in tradition as Preston Academy. But I'm not here to destroy tradition. I'm here to evolve it. The display behind me shifted to show my new vision. Solar panels on the Gothic buildings, advanced research laboratories, globally connected classrooms. The marriage of Preston's architectural beauty with cutting-edge technology. Every student will now have access to AI-driven personalized learning. Every teacher will be trained in the latest educational technology. Our classrooms will connect with partner schools worldwide. And most importantly, I paused, looking directly at my family in the front row, admission will be based purely on merit. A gasp went through the room. Preston's legacy admissions were legendary, and legendarily profitable. To offset the change in our admission structure, I'm establishing a $5 billion technology endowment. Faculty salaries will increase by 40%. Research grants will triple. And yes, we're finally fixing the cafeteria. That got a laugh, breaking the tension slightly. The cafeteria's notorious mystery meat was another Preston tradition no one would miss. But the biggest change, I continued, isn't about technology or money. It's about purpose. Preston Academy was founded to create leaders. That hasn't changed. But the world those leaders will inherit has. We need innovators, problem solvers, creators. People who can bridge the gap between tradition and progress. I gestured to the display which showed EduTech's stock price soaring in real time. The market believes in this vision. More importantly, I believe in it. Because I lived it. I sat in these halls, dreaming of something bigger than legacy admissions and trust funds. Professor Chin was beaming in the front row. Next to him I could see tears in Mom's eyes, but they weren't sad tears anymore. Starting tomorrow, Preston Academy becomes a model for 21st century education. Those who want to be part of this transformation, who are ready to learn and grow, will find no better home. Those who prefer the old way. I smiled. Well, I hear Stanford is still accepting legacy applications. Thomas shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Now, I said, pulling out my tablet, let me show you exactly how we're going to revolutionize education one student at a time. The presentation that followed would make headlines worldwide. By evening, #PrestonRevolution would be trending on every social platform. But right then in that auditorium, watching my family's expressions shift from shock to understanding to cautious pride, I knew I'd done more than just buy a school. I'd changed what it meant to be a Preston.